The word learned is so important. It means contentment didn't just come naturally to him. He didn't wake up one morning and said, you know what? I'm good with whatever happens today. The word learned is so important. He had to be taught by experience. He had to go through both seasons of abundance and seasons of lack. And in both places, he discovered that peace does not depend on his situation. It depends on his Savior. Paul calls it a secret. And what's that secret? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We usually quote this verse as if it means I can accomplish anything, I can win any game, and I can crush any challenge. But in context, Paul is saying something deeper. He's saying I can face any circumstance, good or bad, because Christ is my source of strength. That's the heart of contentment, knowing that your peace is not tied to your paycheck or your possessions or even your popularity. It's tied to Christ. And Paul repeats the same principle in 1 Timothy 6, verse 6, when he says, godliness with contentment is great gain. Notice he doesn't say wealth with contentment or success with contentment. He says godliness. Why? Because when you have Christ, you already have more than enough. This completely flips the script of our culture. The world says, you need to be happy. Paul says, you need Christ to be content. The world says, peace comes when your circumstances improve. But Paul says, peace comes when you rely on Christ in every circumstance. So let me ask you this. What would your life look like if joy didn't rise and fall with your bank account, with your relationship status, or your achievements? What if you could say like Paul, I've learned to be content no matter what? That's not just wishful thinking. That's the power of Jesus living in you. When Paul talks about contentment, he doesn't reduce it to a checklist. He points us back to Jesus. That's what makes this more than just self-help. It's the gospel truth. Contentment begins when you believe that God has already given you what is enough. Not because you lowered your standards, but because you trust his provision. Jesus said in Matthew 6, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. When you seek him first, you stop scrambling for what everyone else is chasing. Contentment also comes when you remember who you are. Paul could sit in a prison cell and still have peace because he knew his identity wasn't tied to his freedom, his income, or his success. It was tied to Christ, and Christ doesn't change when your circumstances do. And contentment comes when you shift your strength. Paul said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Notice he didn't say, I can push through on my own. He said, Christ strengthens me. If you're restless, if you're anxious, if you're worn out from trying to keep up, maybe it's because you've been drawing strength from yourself instead of from God. The world will always tell you that more is better, but Jesus says, I am enough. The world says, keep climbing, but Jesus says, abide in me. The world says, earn your worth, and Jesus says, your worth was already secured at the cross. That's not a formula. That's a relationship, and that relationship is the only place you'll find peace in this chaos. So let's sum this all up. Some of you are tired of the chase, tired of feeling like you're always one step behind, tired of measuring your worth by what you own, by what you've achieved, or how you compare to someone else online. Hear me out. Enough is enough. Not because you've given up, not because you've settled, but because Jesus is enough. Paul could sit in chains and still say, I've learned to be content. And if Christ was enough for him in prison, then Christ is enough for you in whatever chaos you're living in right now. This week, every time that voice in your head whispers, if only I had more, I'd finally be okay. I want you to answer back with the words of Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Not just the big achievements, all things. waiting, struggling, lacking, hoping, all things through Christ. So I invite you right now to release that striving and rest in Him. Now we're going to move to the discussion part of our service. This is where we have the opportunity to learn and to grow together. And don't forget, join us next week for our sermon that's titled The Peace You Can't Lose. Invite a friend and share with others.
And welcome back. I'm going to start by asking my panelists to go ahead and turn on their cameras, as I will give a few introductions and disclaimers. First of all, my girl Abby is the first time that I had a guest speaker, and she did an excellent job. This is what this space is all about. I want us to spend time here talking, learning and growing together. But I want to give opportunities for you guys, young adults, to make this is your church. This is not Pastor Cris' church. Usually Pastor Cris is always preaching because there is, believe it or not, there is a lot more to do behind the scenes with an online church than I could imagine. So the recording and the preparation and all of that kind of stuff takes time. But I want you to know that I want this to be your church. And anytime that you want to join as a panelist, that you want to preach, what do you want to do? This is your place. Just let me know, because I want to get to a point that I say, here, it's your church. Continue, do the work, because this is for you. Now, a couple of disclaimers here. And if you join every week, forgive me, but these are things that I have to repeat every week. What the online church is and what is not. This is not a substitute for an in-person church. Okay. If you listen to season 1, I hit really hard on the concept that we need each other. We need connection. And actually, the reason I started this online church is not so you disconnect from in-person gathering, but it's because some people either have been hurt by the church or never found the church, and they ended up disconnecting. And sometimes with today's society, it's easier for us to meet people online. We feel safer first online, and then we move to the next step. So this can be a bridge, but not a substitute, because you need connection. God created church because we need to grow together. Now we need to find healthy churches, and I think here we can learn what that looks like, and then we can look for the right place. And it may be a person that there's another group. There may be somebody that says, I will never step a foot in a regular church. And this is it. This is the only church for me. I will accept you. I welcome you the way you like. That is fine with me. But I just want to say that the intention for this gathering is not to substitute church. With that in mind, I have been inviting people online through social media, and we're gonna have people that join here from all different backgrounds and religious beliefs. And I want to make this a safe place that we we don't want to force our ideas on them, or we don't want on anybody, or we don't want it to be hostile either. This is a place for us to learn together. And it may be something that somebody joins that they believe in something that I don't believe in it. It's okay too. Okay. We can be friends even when we don't believe the same things. Okay. So, with that very long disclosure, I would like to introduce the panelists that we have today. So, I've been talking for a long time. And for those that don't know me, my name is Cris. I'm a pastor in the Carolinas, that englobes the North and South Carolina. And I am young adult pastor here. So let's do this. Lloyd, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Lloyd Lang. I'm currently living in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Welcome, Lloyd. Lloyd, it's always full of life, and we always love having him here. Lloyd disappeared for a little while because we let him work sometimes, and his work takes him all over the world, literally. Okay. This man makes us all jealous. He was in China, he was in South Korea, he was,
Argentina, yeah.
Argentina. Yeah, I was like, come on, can you stop? Now let's go to Ethan.
Hey, I'm Ethan Grant. Uh, I'm not as exciting as Lloyd. I'm just a
Uh,
teacher. But I'm in Taylorsville, North Carolina. Um, just kind of a local guy.
Ethan and I think him and his sister and a group of friends were one of the first people that I met when I first started working the position that I have right now. And I mean, I love them so much. They became like, even though we don't see each other that often, but they became like family. Love them so much. Love Ethan. And by the way, Ethan, nobody has an exciting life like Lloyd. Okay. So don't worry about that. Vanessa,
Hello. So my name is Vanessa Arana, and I currently live in Charlotte, originally from Venezuela. And yeah, so happy to be here.
Vanessa is the one that keeps my department in check. She works for the Carolina Conference too. She's the assistant for the youth department, which young adult and youth department is under the same umbrella. And she's the one who keeps all of us straight. Somebody's got to do the hard job. But yes, okay. I want to start. Let's start with Lloyd. Lloyd,
Hmm.
what was one thing? Let's start with one thing first. What was one thing? Shout out to our friend Abby.
Yes,
Abby,
yes.
Abby and Lloyd goes to the same church. They are
Well,
friends.
yep. As soon as I saw that message going on, I was like, "It's Abby this week." I legitly sent her a message. I'm like, "I see you. I see you. Why didn't you tell me you're doing it?" But I definitely have an idea of where you're going to take the question, like what stood out to me the most, maybe.
Yes, yes,
Um,
that's
so,
exactly what it
um,
was.
yeah. So to answer that question, I really like the point that Abby talked about. You can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. Because a lot of times when people talk about that, they do some of the most craziest things in life and forget that sometimes we go through trials, we go through difficulties in relationships, work, whatever it could be. It's like he'll bring you through your toughest season. And I'm happy that that's something that she emphasized in her sermon. So I definitely got to give her a shout out for that.
Yeah, and let me tell you, when I every time we hear that verse, we always think God can give me the strength of, I don't know, to run the Ironman marathon. We're always thinking
Mhm.
about the success, but in context, Paul was talking about suffering. He was in prison. He was being
Exactly.
persecuted. So basically, what he's saying is that God can give me strength to go through this difficult part. It doesn't take away from the other way that we looked at this verse, okay?
Hmm.
It's okay for you to look at both ways, but it's also okay to tell us, okay, I'm going through this right now. It's not something that I'm going to achieve success or anything like that, but God will get me through it. And I think this is the question that I have now is like, what was one thing that the sermon caught your attention? I want to ask this question to our panelists. So, Vanessa, what was one thing that got your attention?
I think it's along the same lines. I really like it's funny because just this week I had to write a paper about Philippians. And it was like I think God has been speaking a lot, and like while listening to the sermon, it really sparked my attention. I was like, like it's not so much about like what we can't do, right? But like how we rely in God to get it done. And I think a lot of times our necessity to feel like logically we need to figure it out, or logically we have to control and find a way. So a lot of times we feel like this is impossible because we're only thinking with what we can do. But then it's like it's again that part, I can do all things through Christ, right? So he is the one. It's not, I don't have to find a logical way to get things done, and I might not be able to get it done, but he will get me through, right? Like even if it's the outcome is not the one that I felt like it's gonna be, or that I would want for it to be, God will get me through.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I agree. How about you, Ethan?
Uh, I think what really hit me in the face was, you know, drawing the strength from God, and then uh, not even really thinking about, your worth's already been gained through the cross. And I'm somebody that's always like, I gotta stay busy, right? Um, and it just almost gives you a little sense of that contentment of, hey, you've already been paid for.
Yeah, we have a tendency to. It's interesting because usually the older generation, like my generation, was raised to believe that you are how much you can show for yourself, how much work you do, you know? Uh, Usually I think that the younger generation was not raised with this stigma as much, but I feel like as I keep talking to you guys seems to have this pressure as much as we did, you know? So if we didn't achieve either the grades or the work or the success or the money or the things that I did, um, we wanted to do something to earn uh, God's grace or to earn salvation or to it's always that thing that we need to do more and search for more. Um, I'm gonna go to Vanessa. Paul says he learned to be content. What are some situations? By the way, I write these questions ahead of time because what happens is I get here and I get so nervous, I even forget my name. So if I don't write it down, introduce yourself, I won't introduce myself. So I write it down, everything. So, what are some situations in your life where you had to learn contentment the hard way? Can you think of any situation?
Wow. Yes, several actually, and some of them like I'm still kind of struggling as I'm replying to this question to even share, because sometimes like it's like that vulnerable part of me that like it's difficult. A lot of times I've found, especially with my migration like story of coming to a new place, and yes, although there's a lot of like positive things about it, there have been other areas where I have had like I've been forced to be content with what they are. For example, I was about to finish college when I had to move here. I never planned for me not to finish college, and then I could have chosen to just be resentful and just be like, oh, why am I working at different jobs because I have to start from zero here. And as a family, we had to just, work at places where we never thought we would work, do things we never thought we would do. It's like completely out of, that vision. And sometimes it happens where life just completely changes and shakes. So how learning contentment no matter the circumstances has been that God has been showing me in this season. It's not about what surrounds me. It's not about having everything that I planned for. It's not about completing college. It's how can I find that contentment where I'm at, and how can I change my perspective and just shift that the perspective of what I see. Okay, am I choosing to focus on whatever I cannot control? Or am I choosing to be content and thankful for all the blessings that I do actually have, and focusing on that positive thing that will keep me going, and actually ultimately just staying in God's will? Because even when I think about Paul, he said in Philippians, like, all of this that has happened to me has happened to advance like the kingdom of God. Even though he was in prison, even though like that was his opportunity, he had always longed to be in Rome preaching to those people, and I don't think he ever thought he would be preaching to them while he was in prison. Now he was in prison, it was pretty bad, but he was still allowed to have visitors and things like that. So it's like in all things, even if it's hard, we can find contentment if we see the purpose of God, how it's playing and how God is influencing that situation.
It's so amazing how God works in the details of things that we really needed. And I don't know if this is from, now I'm answering the question, okay? I don't know if this is from being immigrant or just being Brazilian, but we have this restlessness, okay? I think looking as the immigrant point of view, you go to another country. Like in my case, I chose to come here. It wasn't like you came with your family, like your family chose and you came. But for me, I chose. My husband also, he chose to come here to have a better life. And then my husband and I are always cutting ourselves thinking thoughts like, for an example, he's from a city where half of the city came to United States. Like, what are you going to be when you grow up? Move to United States, make money, then come back. Not as much anymore, but it used to be like 20, 30 years ago. But anyways, so he saw a lot of his friends coming to the US and making the kind of money that he was never able to make. So, like it or not, it's a frustration, it's a comparison. What am I doing wrong? Why do they have this and I don't have it? And this is something that God is still working in us. It's that thing of being thankful to God and being content with what we have. And I love the example that you gave in this that I never thought about it, but he always wanted to preach in Rome. And he ended up being able to preach in Rome, but was from a prison. So sometimes God fulfills our dreams in a different way, but it's the way that God found that was going to be more beneficial. I don't know exactly what it is. It's hard to think that was beneficial for him to be in prison doing this, but he ended up preaching. So that very, very interesting point of view. As far as money goes, my husband and I already came to the conclusion that we never made money because God knew that would we be in the path that we are today? Would I be working as a pastor? Would he be my greatest support if we had made a lot of money? So God kept us humble. And today I appreciate that. I don't mind money, by the way, but let's not be tempted with that. Lloyd or Ethan, if you have something to share on that, please feel free to jump in before I move to the next one.
I definitely like the question a lot. I feel like we live in a culture where everyone's always looking at their neighbors, looking at the Jones who live next door. You have social media, you have Instagram where you can see what's going on when someone posts something. And it's something where I feel like being present is like one of the key to being content. It's like being present in the actual moment that you're in, because it's something where it's like, for example, certain people, like they'll hear like, oh Lord, you're traveling, and I always say like it has its blessings and, like, not so easy parts, because there are certain events. I miss my niece's birthdays, and I've missed certain amazing the church events where I'm like, I wish I could go there. And and it's something where also it's like you're separated from your community. It's something where sometimes when you think the grass is greener on the other side, sometimes it's like it isn't that greener. As well as it's something where we also have to remember, or at least the way how I view it is, God knows what to give someone and when to give it. Because there are certain times where like for example, if you're currently in a relationship, if you received your okay, like for example, like I know for me, I'll use myself as example. Like I have a girlfriend, she's amazing, I love her to pieces. And it's something where, and I told her many times, if I had you earlier on in my life, I wouldn't be able to steward you well, because there are certain different things I had to learn throughout life. So sometimes it's like it's easy to look at somebody and say, oh, they have a house, they have a nice job, they have this, but it's like it takes a level of like you have to trust that God will give you what you need when you need it, because like he's a good father and he's not going to withhold perfect gifts from us if he knows we're ready for it. Because the last thing is he doesn't want to, like, for example, if he knows giving you money is going to corrupt you, he's not going to do that. But if he know giving you money is going to further his kingdom because you have a generous, like a generous, like, you're generous, like your generous spirit about you, he's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to pour, because when you get it, because like I was always taught, you're blessed to give. So for me, it's like I'll say like this: the more you give, the more it comes back, and the more you kind of give. So it's something where God knows what He does for who He does it. So sometimes you just gotta like, to Vanessa's point, look at like what you have in your little boat, and just say, "Hey, God, help me to steward what I have now and make most of it for Your glory."
Absolutely. I agree with that. That's a very good point. Ethan,
Yep.
was there ever a thing that you really wanted and now it's just getting dust somewhere.
Uh, I'm sure there's lots of things. But life throws curveballs at you for sure. And it might not be uh the path you thought you'd take to get there, but the like what Lloyd said, trust. I think trust in God is that's key. And I think if you only have partial trust, that's when you're going to run into issues and frustrations, and worry. Total trust, I think, is where that contentment, joy, the peace. I think that's where that total trust comes into play. I mean, I know I'm guilty of having that partial trust, or sometimes you feel like you're overwhelmed and you don't think about where you're at and what you should be thankful for. You get kind of caught up in yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I'm gonna tell this is why I love this space, because this is not about us saying we know it all, but it's like being vulnerable and say, hey, I struggle with this. And yeah, I think a great difficulty that we have, it's so easy to say, trust in the Lord, don't worry about tomorrow, but where's the button that you press? That you, right? It's like, where's that button? And you stop overthinking. But it's that daily exercise. It's that daily like surrender, like, okay, Lord, those thoughts are coming back. And first of all, it's recognizing the loop. So Vanessa and I, we talk a lot because I mean we work together, and we are great at overthinking. And one thing that I have learned, yes, I am an overthinker. I worry a lot, and I know that the talk today is not about overthinking; it's about contentment. But those are all connected because it comes the trust that Ethan just mentioned about. Is like I trust God, I really do, but I'm still concerned about something else. You know what I mean? So so it's like when you start getting to that loop where, Lord, I know you want the best for me. Lord, I know you love me, but I'm still concerned. Father, I'm going to give it to you now. And he comes back 5 minutes later, give it to him again. And he comes back 1 hour later and give it to him again. I am not going to say that I'm completely cured, okay? But I can tell you that it's getting easier. I still overthink. I'm still concerned. But I feel like I'm not suffering as much as I used to anymore. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I agree.
Go, Vanessa.
So yeah, like I think a lot of the overthinking, like thinking about it has a lot to do with the way, for me, the way I was raised. And like it's like an automatic almost response to things. And with me having come to the church as an adult, it's really hard to like change those ways of thinking, because like when are you content? When you feel like you can let go, right? It's like, yes, maybe I'm gonna keep on working to make things better. Maybe I'm in a position where I don't have everything I want, and I can keep on working towards getting there. But I'm not stressed. I'm not anxious. I'm trusting in God and doing my part. But because of the way that I was raised, again, it feels like I was the one that had to make provision. I was the one who had to stress. And that gives a lot of anxiety. All the overthinking, for me, it tends to be like with one situation, I think about it so many times. I'm creating scenarios, I'm finding solutions for all the scenarios. I'm like making all the plans from A to Z, because I don't have that trust in God, right? And like that's something that we learn. And it's so beautiful how Paul models that. Like his trust is in God. Yes, no matter the circumstances, he has that hope and that security that he can be content. He might try and change the circumstances, like maybe speak up for himself. He was still trying to preach the gospel. He was trying to do the most that he could in whatever time he had, in whatever circumstance he had, but he was not you don't see anxiety, you don't see that stress, you see that reliance in God. And I think that's something that, like, again, to your point, like being an overthinker, it takes time to get rid of those patterns and habits of how can I replace every time that I catch myself overthinking, take those thoughts captive and replace them with security, reassurance, content, and just like reliance in God.
Yes, yes. I want to go back to a comment that you made. Just remind me before that, I want to welcome the people that are signing in. Some people signed in a little later, and you might not have caught the sermon part of our service. So I just want to let you know. By the way, there's a lot of names here that are new, like Chloe, Crystal, Gabriela, Lorena, and Marielle and Sebastian. They have been here before. Terry, it's new as well. So welcome, everyone. We start at 3 o'clock on Saturdays, but we don't go every Saturday. We go for a season of usually 8 episodes, except for this season, it's going to be one shorter because next week we are having a big event. So we don't have online church in online. We don't have online church online. Anyways, we don't have online church next week, but we come back the following week all the way through the end of November. Then we take a break and we come back after the New Year's. But if you join at 3 o'clock, you'll understand what we're talking about because we always have a short sermon and then we come because this is a place for us to grow together. So those that are attendees today, if you like to be ever part of the panel, let me know because this is a church for you. That's what we're doing here. And it looks like Terry found us through TikTok. That is awesome. That is awesome. I am so excited. Now, going back to what Vanessa said, Vanessa, I agree with you, but I want to challenge all of us right now. Because when we say, well, it takes trusting God, and it does. And then we say, so I'm not trusting God enough. There's something else too. People say, like somebody was sick, oh, just have faith in God and you're going to be healed. What I want to challenge is this. So if I'm not healed, it's because I don't have enough faith. So if things are not happening, it's because I don't have enough trust. So basically, it's my fault. But I know we don't do this on purpose. It's unconscious. But you know how we ended up blaming us? And I'm not saying that we don't have faults. One thing that you will see with me, I am very real. I'm very real to love you, but I'm also very real to say, hey, you're wrong about this. Because I think that's true friendship, right? A friend that is just saying, oh, you did good all the time, but doesn't call you on, that's not a true friend, okay? And I wanted to be very real here. There are times that is our fault and we need to change. But I don't want us to blame ourselves when we truly wanted to trust God, but we listen, there's traumas that holds us from trusting God. There's so many other things that happens that we don't intentionally don't want to trust God, but it's because of things that have happened. So when you feel like you're lacking trust, don't just focus on the blaming yourself, but ask God, help me trust you, help me have more faith in you. Give this to God, because even God is so amazing that even that he can work on us. Lloyd, did you want to say something?
Yes.
Go ahead.
You definitely saw it off of my body language for sure. No, it's something where trusting in God definitely looks different in every season. But I want to go to the point where you kind of said where God help, even like when you don't know to trust
Help
him.
my unbelief,
Yes,
right?
yes. It goes back to the one story in the Bible where the person was like, God, like talking to Jesus, I believe, but help my unbelief. And it's sometimes where it's like there are times where I even found myself in my own life where it's like, God, I know you came through. I know you're gonna come through because you've came through in the past. You've came through here, here, here. So I know you're gonna make a way. And even though I know you're gonna make a way logically, emotionally, my heart isn't there. So I'm like, God, help me to process it and to get over through it. And it's something where God, one thing I think that's amazing about God is that he wants all of our emotions Like, like there isn't any emotion of doubt or anything that he doesn't want back. He wants everything because at the end of the day, he's like this. You know what? Come as you are. Come with your doubt. Come with your fear. Come with this because that's what he wants. What he doesn't want us to come and be like, oh, I have no fear. I believe, like, he doesn't want us to be someone that we're not. Because at the end of the day, it's like you can't really help someone there.
Absolutely. I love that you said that God wants all of our emotions. Sometimes we have like put quotes on the different type of emotions like you shouldn't cry or that's weakness. If you're overthinking, if you're anxious, it's because you don't trust God. No, 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 stop. Because God can handle all of your emotions. Be real with him because he will help you with all of them. Now, if we are not honest, if we don't name, if we don't bring it to God, how can he help us? Right? By the way, I forgot to mention this, but this is not a conversation just for us. This is a conversation for the people that are watching and on the chat as well. Terry said that her and her mom have been discussing a lot about this, and my understanding of faith has evolved. God is amazing, right? It's like through the conversations, through situations like this that we learn and that we grow. If you have a question or a comment that you don't want anybody to know who you are, just go to the Q&A because in the Q&A you can send comments anonymous, okay? But if you don't mind others seeing it, please put in the chat. And again, if you wanted to participate in the panel, let me know later and I'll make sure to include you in the conversation. Ethan, do you think this culture is fitting this contentment even more, the culture that we live today?
Yeah, I think it's probably directly tied to like these things, right? um, it clouds everything. Uh, this digital era. I mean, it's easy to find yourself comparing or like, oh man, this person has this or that or whatever, but really you don't see their struggles. Might be look a little different, but it's still a struggle. That's keeping them from that peace. Um, I mean, at least that's what I think. I'm not saying that, even back 200 years ago, there wasn't that same feeling of, struggle, but it looked a little different. It's just, you didn't know what your neighbor was doing or struggling with. You know what I mean? People are maybe more, I won't say more nosy. It's easier for them to be nosy now,
It's funny because as you're talking, I was remember growing up. We didn't have the internet, but we didn't need it. We had neighbors watching you. I,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
I'm from South America, and we play around. We say that I'm taking care of my health because of my business. Everybody else is taking care of it. Like all of the neighbors knew, but it was so much more condensed. Is it condensed the right word? It was such a smaller radius of people that knew about your life or things that is happening. Uh, the way that it is today, the way that it's easy for you to pretend to have a life that you don't have it is the easiest thing because you can, I mean, Lloyd pretends to be on Hawaii almost every time I see him. No, I'm kidding. You can, with AI and fake backgrounds, you can pretend. I have a picture. Actually, it's so funny because if I find it easier here, I'm going to share in the chat here. I'm going to share. It's right here. If you can open up, look at this picture. If you can't open up, I will describe what this is. This is me in a zoo holding a baby panda. Isn't that cute? Do you notice anything weird with this picture? It's AI. It's not me. Oh, you can see Terry. So pretty much it's just me in a zoo holding a baby panda bear. Okay. First of all, it was so funny that my family believed. My family was like, "When was this? When did you go to the zoo?" And I'm like, guys, first of all, I look 10 years younger, okay? I really appreciate that they believed it was me. But with the way that social media is with AI, with everything, is so easy for you to pretend a life that is not yours. And when we are looking at that job that my friend, like my friend is the same age as me, but they already have the house, they already have the car, they're already traveling, they're doing this, and that. It's so easy for us to be discontent with our lives because the comparison game is horrible. But what do we do? What is the solution, Lloyd? Do we just give up, never use a phone again?
It's something where honestly, it's everywhere, like you said. Like, think about it. If someone posts a picture, most likely they're going to add filters, or like there's always some type of modification. And it's something where it's like, I think the only true solution to like not being content is to just like, I guess looking at it from a perspective like where it's like, hey, God has me where I want to be. God has me where he need me to be. And the more like you gotta view it like this. Like, hey, Vanessa, when you go to work, you have to say, you know what? God sent me into this room. How can I make a difference in this room? Or like Ethan, wherever you go to the job or to school or wherever you go, you have to say, you know what? When I go to the grocery store, how would Jesus impact this environment? So I feel like having that mindset is just saying like, hey, rather than saying like I had to be on stage to preach the gospel, it's like no, you could preach the gospel where you're at, as well as it's like so that's like from like where you are, like where you should be, but then like a angle of like just appearance. A lot of times it's easy to be like, oh, this person looks nice or cute or they got this makeup. It's just something where you just got to remind yourself like, hey, God created me fearfully and wonderfully. Like he took his time. Like each of us are like beautiful in God's sight. And it's like I feel like once you have a glimpse of how beautiful you are to God, you'll view yourself more beautiful. Like for example, like I'm gonna give, because one thing I have like a rule for myself is I love to give compliments or praises whenever like you know, you never know when someone needs to hear a compliment. So if you have a compliment, tell them. One thing that I really respect about Ethan is that you have a sense of vulnerability when you speak, where it's just like, wow, I could tell that it's coming directly from your heart, like, you know.
Oh,
And like to me that is something that it's like I feel like a lot of times it's like the more time we spend with God, the more we could see God, and or the more we could see God and why he made the choices in our lives. Or sometimes we could even just pray to him and say, hey God, help me to see myself the way how you view me.
amen. Amen. And I love this about Lloyd. It is true. Today, it's hard for us to give compliments, and it's also hard for us to receive compliments. I saw Ethan's face. He's like, and you're right, Lloyd. He is an amazing person, very vulnerable, very like him and his sister fell in love with them when I met them the very first time. I didn't think about it first, but I wanted to just share the picture that I mentioned just for Terry that couldn't see, and also for those that will be watching online later. This is the picture that I was talking about. I wish this was real. It's so cute, but it's not real. But there it is. That's the picture. But yes, it's so easy for us to be distracted, to not see what God is giving us. And at some point in my life, especially when phones came out, I mean, I wasn't raised with a phone. Are you kidding me? And then all of a sudden, kids like younger start having phones, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Why do kids need phone? The thing is, this is a battle that we already lost. I mean, to not even give like an opportunity for a, I wouldn't say child, but like a teenager, they need to know how to use a computer. They need to know how to use an iPad, because otherwise they cannot even get a job. Okay, so we need those things that unfortunately connects to the internet and unfortunately can be so dangerous for us. So I think the solution is exactly in what Lloyd was saying, directly to the point of contentment. How do we live in contentment in a society that is so that feels discontentment with all the comparison? It's really giving it to God and being content with what God has given us. Let me go to the next question. Uh, Vanessa, Paul says, godliness with contentment is great gain. What does great gain looks like to you?
What is it again? Godliness? Godliness?
Godliness
Uh-huh.
with contentment is great gain.
Okay.
So it's talking about like beyond money and possessions. It's more
Yeah.
important to have godliness
Yeah.
with
And be
contentment.
content with that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's more gain. I think it goes back again to sometimes like where we place our focus, like what is truly important, right? And I
Mhm.
think that was something that Paul got right. And even as like the story of Martha, it's like, like what you focus on, like like they cannot take away, right, from us if we gain that godliness. And how do you gain that godliness? By spending time with God, I guess, by spending time with him, by being changed. And I feel like that may be the point. Like, I'm not 100% sure, right? But it's like that's how I see it. And I think more and more that helps me shift my perspective. It's like, what is it that really matters? What is it that nobody can really take away from me? And it's that, or growth with Christ, and or growth spiritually, and how, like, the things that make us a person, and not like internally and not externally. And so if we have that and we're content in that, then we have great gain. Like, there's nothing else that we could gain more than that, right? Like, I mean, that's to me, that's how I interpret it.
Yes, and because we're talking about contentment, we may take to the other extreme. And we may say that, okay, if I have this job and I want another job, that's a sin. If I have this amount of money and I want more money, that is a sin. That's not what we're saying.
Right.
What we're saying is this: God, I really wanted to have that job.
Mm.
But even if you don't give me,
Yeah.
I'm still praising you.
Yes, even if it's
Yeah, even
right.
if I don't reach, it's not that wanting more is a sin in itself.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when we let go of God, stop listening to Him, just to achieve what we want to achieve. And not even talking about sin, we're talking about how that robs our peace. God wants us to have peace with what we have. By the way, the overall theme of this season is peace in chaos. And I thought it was very appropriate because I think our country, especially, is going through a lot of chaos. So, all of the topics for this season is talking about something that could rob our peace and how we can have peace back, which one of the topics is having contentment. Lloyd, I heard your thoughts.
um, it like I like the point that you guys mentioned about like even if. And that I definitely think that is a part of the equation of becoming more content. It's more of like, hey, if you have to trust God to be God. He will close whatever doors that needs to be closed. He will open up what doors that needs to be open. And like it even goes to like the Hebrew boys where they were like bow down before this idol, and they were like no, and then they're like, okay, you're gonna be tossed into the furnace. And then they were like, my God will deliver me. But even if he don't, I'm still not going to bow down. And it's something where I feel like in today's generation, we need to become more of that even if kind of things where it's like, I'm going to do what aligns with the Bible and what God says to do, even if I have what visibly seems like the support of heaven or not. Because like certain people feel like, okay, you know what? You can be the best version of yourself. You could shine your light in your job place, whether if it's your old job or a new job that you're applying for. It's like it doesn't matter where you are. It's like you got to have that even if mentality. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. And so you guys know that I'm a very honest pastor here. Some people may look at me and say, wow, a pastor feeling that way. But I have to be honest with you guys. I don't know how to be different. But anyways, this week I had a conversation with my little sister. My sister became a Christian after I became a pastor. I started, no, actually, was it before I became a pastor? Well, it was a little while ago. I was the first Christian in my family. And then I taught my little sister. And so the other day, we were having a conversation, and there's something that I really want. And it's funny because God was already working in me this the topics for this season, right? And one of them was contentment. And I was telling my sister that how do I know she's a psychologist as well, okay? So sometimes I use her wisdom. So I was like, how do I know? Where's that fine line between, okay, it's okay for me to want something more, but when is it that maybe God doesn't want me to do this and I'm messing up God's plans? And she goes, wow, you're very powerful. She was like, you think you can mess up God's plans? I was like, oh, that's true. She goes, you don't think God is strong enough to close the door? I mean, one thing is for you to be stubborn. One thing is for you to like, I know God's closing this door, but I still want it. This is my way or the highway. The other thing is, God, I wanted to do your way. But we don't have the kind of connection with God that let's say people came. He heard God. So I wish I could hear God so bad. Or at least have the stones. Do you guys remember the stones that the Urim and Thummim that they had during the tabernacle time? Where they would ask the priest a question, and it depends on the answer. One of the stones would light up. I don't know if you guys ever heard this part, but anyways, I was like, I want that. But anyways, we don't have that. So because we don't have that, we don't have that clear message. Sometimes we get confused, and it's normal to be confused. But if you have the heart of, Lord, I don't want to do anything that is not your plans, but I'm not sure if this is what you want, if this is just a difficulty that I have to overcome, or if you're telling me to stop trying. So, whatever it is, Father, I give in your hands. If you close the door, shut it down very, very strongly, or I'm going to keep trying. But know that God is stronger. Yeah, Ethan says here, for real. Which part did you say for real here, Ethan?
I mean, all of it, but
All of it.
I mean, my man Lloyd over there, he hit the nail on the head. God's plan will happen regardless of what we do or don't do.
So
That's that.
true.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Go ahead,
No, I
Lloyd.
wanted to, because like when you were talking about like your whole sister situation, it just reminded me of the story of Esther, where it's like God is going to deliver his people, whether if he's going to use Esther or someone else. And it's one of those things is I like to take that concept where it's like God's will be done regardless. So it's something where it's like whether if he uses us or use someone else, it's going to be done regardless. And if we go with that heart posture where it's like, hey God, like I want to make the right choice. It's something where I would say this: just having that heart posture alone, he will lead you and guide you, whether if you're conscious of it or not. Because the steps of a righteous person are ordered by the Lord. So it's something where even if you're not mentally aware that, hey, I'm going the right way, as long as you are praying, as long as you are abiding in God's presence, you will naturally go the right way.
Yep. Yep. You know, I'm curious. There's a few names here: Crystal, Gabriella. Oh, there was one more, but she already left. Chloe. I'm so curious. How did you guys find us? I just want to figure out where is working, where I'm advertising about the online church that is working. So let us know, where did you find us? And I'm so glad that you're here. Yes, I think this topic is so crucial for us to have peace. And that's why I wanted to bring this up for our conversation. I have just basically one more question. This week, when the thought comes, if I just had blank, I would finally be okay. How could you remind yourself that Christ is enough in that moment? Who would like to take that?
Mhm.
Can you repeat the question? I had a
Do
whole
you-
ADHD
I think,
moment, so
yeah.
it went through one ear and out the other.
uh, this week, when the thoughts come, if I just had blank, whatever it is that you think you wanted to have, I
Mhm.
would finally be okay. How could you remind yourself that Christ is enough in that moment?
Hmm.
so
That's a loaded question.
Yeah. I I mean, I don't know, but lately I've really I think I can relate to Lloyd a lot because like I have been through that of feeling like, oh wow, if this would have happened before, like I would have not been able to handle it. And I think that more and more that's what I think about, like God is in control. Like he is enough just because he's in control. Like all I need to know and to have, like that's what kind of like my internal conversation. Every time I'm like down about something or feeling like, oh, I need this whenever I get there. I'm like, okay, but God is enough because like he's in control and that's all that matters. Like I don't have to desire something else or work towards something else. It doesn't mean that I want, right? I still am gonna put in my effort and my work and like I want things. I think it's natural to want things, right? And God doesn't want us to just sit and
Mhm.
but like just having that contentment of being able to in the journey like feeling like well even if I'm full. Like even if
Yes.
I don't get it, I'm full. Like I have everything I need. I really do.
I know it's hard for us to think in the instant because I'm actually even thinking here, but I wanted to see if we could end with something concrete. Like, okay, I know Jesus is enough, but when my mind is starting to go through that loop, before I spiral, what can
Mhm.
I do? Any ideas,
So
practical ideas? Go ahead,
I
Lloyd.
I know one thing that I personally do is I do what I can and then trust God with what I can't. Because that's something where like multiple times throughout my life, he always brought up the Bible verse back to me, be still and know that I am God. He showed that to me many times to the point where I'm like, I get it, I see it, God. And sometimes I need that reminder to be still and know that he's God. So like regardless of whatever's on your plate, do what you can and then know that God goes before you. It's like with Psalms 23, it's like the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me. Like it's something where when you actually listen to the verbiage that's actually used, like the exact words, it's like he maketh you lie down in green pastures. He restores your soul. He leadeth you. It's something where everything in Psalms 23 is about Jesus. It's about God doing this for us. There's nothing we have to do outside of just abiding in his presence. And I think that's one song that I've been meditating on is this one song called like Abiding. And it's something where it's just about abiding in his presence. So it's like do what you can and just say, you know what, God, if it doesn't happen, it's not for me. If it does happen, it good. Like, I know, like, you go before me. So it's like, even though we're here today, God is in our tomorrow. So whatever you're stressed about tomorrow, he's already there. He already knows the solution for it. So it's like sometimes like I really feel like we put down like I always say worrying is like putting down payments on a problem you may never happen. How many times we've all worried about something that's never happened?
Yes, yes. That passage that you just mentioned, be still and know that I am God. I
Hmm.
have that on top of my office. When you come into my office on top of it, I have shirts with that. I have that
Hmm.
in my computer. I have oh, God is telling me all the time, be still, child.
Exactly. Because we're in this generation where it's like do. I need to do this. I need to get the house. I need to get married by this time. I need to do this. And God's like, no, you don't. No, you
And,
don't.
and we're from different generation and it's
Hmm.
still
Yep.
complicated, you know?
Like he's telling us, stop being a Martha. Stop running around. Sit down, be a Mary, and abide in my presence.
Ethan, did you want to say something?
um, I guess like Deuteronomy 31:8. Um, that that's it just kind of keeps you at bay with everything y'all are saying too. Um, it lets you know he's not going to leave you. I mean, in anything that you do. Uh, it's a reassurance. I mean, I just feel like it fits right into play with what Lloyd's saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, this was wonderful. I loved spending this time with you. I wanted to give some just reminders. Next week, we do not have online church. I will send a message just to remind that we don't have an online church because there are always different people signing in. I also wanted to ask you to share with your friends. Like I said, this is not to substitute church, but this is to have a safe space where we can express ourselves, our doubts, our questions. So this is a place where we're going to chat together, we're going to talk, we're going to, if you ever wanted to preach, let me know and we find a way to get you here to the my recording studio. If you want to be part of the panel, let me know. But most of all, I want other young adults like yourselves to have access to this information. So share with them the link on YouTube. Invite them to be present when we do this live, because this is the ways that they can participate. Some people are shy; they don't want to be part of the panel, but they can be part of the in the chat. So there's different ways to participate. This is your church, this is your space. Make sure other young adults know that this is happening. And that's it. If you are, any of you in the chat are in North Carolina or even South Carolina, there is a big event happening next week in Raleigh, North Carolina, especially for young adults. So little plug in here. Big plug-in. The speakers are awesome. The event is going to be amazing. So I want to invite everybody. Yes, Chloe, I saw that you were here and then you came back. Chloe, I was curious to know how did you find us? But everybody, I love that you guys are here. I want you guys to come back every week. I think I already gave all of my plug-in announcements. Did I forget anything? Lloyd, Vanessa, did I forget something?
Also, if they come next week, we could also like meet and talk more in person as
Can you
well.
imagine how cool that's going to be, Ethan, you're coming, right? To Raleigh.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, so I'll see you next week then.
Yeah. Vanessa's going to
Yep.
be there. Lloyd's going to be there.
Yeah,
Ethan's
I'll be
going to be
there.
there. Lorena said thank you. Thank you, Lorena. Lorena and Marielle, they are sisters and they are my actual, not biological, but it's like sisters. I know them since we were teenagers.
Whoa.
Anyway, yes. They live in Florida and I love to have them here. And everybody else that joined for the first time, come back. Love to have you guys. And I think that's it. Hope to see you guys not either in person next week or online the following week. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Terry, Chloe. Oh, Chloe is Ethan's friend. Awesome. That's how she found us. Come back. Okay. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.